Shemo King, The Game of Life. Season 1, Episode 1. Why does this keep happening? Have you ever noticed the same lesson can find you through completely different people, different faces, different places, different seasons of your life, and somehow it still feels familiar? The same disappointment, the same tension, the same ache, returning, wearing a different mask. And after a while, you stop calling it coincidence, because the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. And you start asking yourself, why does this keep happening? Why does the same feeling keep finding me through different people, in different forms? Why does the pattern repeat until it hurts enough to finally be noticed? And maybe that's when life starts feeling different, less random, more revealing, almost like a game. Not because life isn't real, not because nothing matters, but because certain lessons seem determined to return until something inside you rearranges. And once you notice that, you can't unsee it. Sometimes the pattern doesn't begin as pain. Sometimes it begins as connection, companionship, laughter, shared energy, the feeling of being understood. Like maybe someone sees your rhythm, and for a while, everything feels balanced, easy, natural, real. But then, something shifts, quietly. The tone changes, the energy changes, the expectations become heavier. And slowly, your kindness stops feeling appreciated and starts feeling expected. Your time becomes available, your energy becomes assumed, and because you care, you keep giving. Because you want peace, because you understand people, because you don't want conflict, because part of you hopes, if you stay patient enough, soft enough, easy enough, everything will stay balanced. But eventually, something inside gets tired. And maybe you know that feeling, still showing up while quietly pulling away inside. For me, that realization came slowly, because for a long time, I thought being a good person meant being easy. Easy to forgive, easy to help, easy to understand, easy to overlook disrespect, easy to betray myself in the name of peace. I thought if I stayed kind enough, people would stay. If I gave enough, people would value me. If I kept showing up, people would understand me. But no matter how much I gave, I still ended up feeling unseen. And that loneliness confused me, because I kept thinking, how can I care this deeply and still feel alone? So I got quieter, held things in, pretended things didn't bother me, ignored what hurt me, stayed silent when something crossed the line, because I thought silence would keep the peace. But it didn't. And after a while, my body started noticing things before I allowed myself to say them out loud. My chest would tighten, my stomach would drop, my jaw would clench, my shoulders stayed tense, my mind kept racing. Because sometimes, nothing dramatic happened. Sometimes it was small, a comment, a joke, a tone, being spoken to in a way that didn't sit right. And even though I smiled, something inside me resisted. Even while I stayed calm, even while I stayed respectful, Something deeper felt unsettled, and that became the real conflict, because the world was asking me to stay comfortable for everyone else. But my body was asking me to be honest with myself. And for a long time, I kept listening to the world over myself. And the more I adjusted to the world, the smaller I felt. Like every time I ignored my own reaction, I moved further away from who I was. Until eventually, being accepted by the world started feeling more painful than finally being honest with myself. And what stayed with me the longest was what happened afterward. The moment would already be over, but it still wasn't over inside me. I would be halfway home and still having the conversation in my head. Still hearing the tone. Still feeling what was said. Still replaying what I didn't say. Sometimes driving. Sometimes lying awake at night. Sometimes staring at nothing while my mind kept rewriting the moment. And eventually, I would finally hear my own voice. The words I wished I had said. The truth I wished I had spoken. The boundary I wished I had honored. And maybe you know that feeling too, when the room has moved on, but something inside you is still standing there, still replaying it, still rewriting it, still wishing you had chosen yourself sooner. That became exhausting, because even when the conversation ended for everyone else, it kept living inside me. And eventually, I realized something. Avoiding conflict with others doesn't always create peace within yourself. Sometimes, it creates war within you. And that war is exhausting. Because even when everything looks calm outside, your body is carrying everything you never said. The swallowed words, the frustration, the pressure, the weight of betraying yourself just to keep everyone else comfortable. And eventually, I got tired. Tired of shrinking myself. Tired of replaying moments long after they ended. Tired of feeling trapped inside myself. And I realized people are going to be who they are, no matter how carefully you move around them, no matter how much you adjust, no matter how much of yourself you hold back. And if discomfort finds you either way, then maybe it's better to meet it honestly than to keep abandoning yourself trying to avoid it. That rearranged everything. Because freedom didn't begin when everyone understood me. Freedom began the moment I allowed myself to be honest. And a lot of that freedom came through creating. Before I understood any of this, I just knew my imagination was always building something. Stories, scenes, characters, worlds, ideas. I would come home from school completely drained, lay in bed, close my eyes, and disappear into thought, because inside my head, I was free. While my body rested, my imagination kept moving, building worlds, building moments, building possibilities. Looking back, I think that was creation before I even had a name for it. Before music, before art, before concepts, before any of it. It started there, with imagination. And maybe that's why creating always felt different to me, because it never felt like performance. It never felt like proving something. It felt like alignment, like balance, like returning. Creating didn't make my problems disappear. It simply became the place where I felt most like myself. And when I felt most like myself, everything else became easier to understand. Because everything I tried to do only to fit into the world eventually created friction. The more I forced it, the heavier life became, the more disconnected I felt. But creating was different. Creating felt alive. Like my mind, my energy, and my spirit were finally moving in the same direction. And once I felt that, I couldn't ignore it anymore, because I no longer felt trapped. I no longer felt buried underneath pressure. I felt whole, like something inside me had finally come home. And once I began feeling whole again, I noticed something else. Looking back, I don't think life was trying to punish me. I think life was trying to get my attention. And the lesson kept returning until I was finally willing to listen. Because part of the game is not just what happens while you're inside the experience. It's how you feel after you choose yourself. Sometimes the lesson isn't clear in the moment. Sometimes it only becomes visible later, after distance, after reflection, after silence, after you finally ask yourself, why did that affect me so deeply? What was that trying to show me? What did I gain from that version of myself? And sometimes, the proof that you've grown isn't that life stops bringing the lesson. It's that when it returns, it no longer hurts the same. And when something that once broke you no longer reaches you in the same way, you realize something in you has shifted. You didn't just survive it, you grew through it. And growth rearranges everything. The room didn't change, the conversations didn't change, the people didn't change. I did. And maybe that's why growth feels lonely sometimes. Not because you're losing yourself, but because you're finally becoming someone your past no longer fully recognizes. And maybe that's what the game has been trying to teach all along. Not perfection, not control, not endless happiness, but awareness. The awareness to notice what keeps repeating, what keeps draining you, what keeps shaping you, and what becomes possible when you finally choose yourself inside the pattern. And maybe that's the strangest part of all. The lesson doesn't disappear. The people may shift, the circumstances may rearrange, but eventually you do. And one day, the thing that once broke you doesn't reach you the same way anymore. Not because life stopped happening, not because the game ended, but because the player changed. And maybe that's what growth really is, not escaping the lesson, becoming someone new inside it. So maybe tonight, ask yourself honestly, what keeps repeating in my life that I still haven't fully understood? And if the answer feels uncomfortable, maybe that's not the ending. Maybe that's where the next version of you begins. Welcome to Shemo King, the game of life.